The cool end of summer breeze gently tousled my blue-black hair as I stood at a simple grave overlooking the sea, the name Summer Rose etched into its surface. "Hey, Mom," I sighed, my face set in a sad smile. Placing the trio of roses I had procured from the village, I sat down next to the granite slab, my eyes scanning the horizon for several minutes. I removed the full-zip hoodie I was wearing and set it aside, my dark blue beanie following the suit after. I crossed my legs and began one of the daily meditations that my training required, one in the morning before breakfast and one in the evening after dinner. The sound of waves crashing against the cliffs below carried me to serenity, my mind clearing of the drama and stress of the day. My body relaxed, tired muscles allowed to rest after the bout of sparring I had just come from in town. Having finally achieved some form of peace, I began contemplating the lessons and wisdom shared to me by my martial arts instructor, Master Zen. Having finished my nightly meditations, I prayed, first to Kinareth, asking the goddess to protect my long-dead mother's soul. Next, I prayed to my patron, Lady Nocturnal, thanking her for the skills I was blessed with and the uncanny luck I relied on. Rising, I replaced my discarded garments and turned for home. The following day, I found myself heading to Vale with my father and sisters. We had business to attend to in the city, and we had all decided to tag along for our own purposes. I departed from the bullhead we had arrived in, making my way to a nearby warehouse. I had received a message from a Thieves' Guild contact from within the city. The client informed us of a local gang that was stealing small shipments of dust, and they were hoping we might help. I was being tasked with cleaning them out, our informants letting slip the location of gang's hideout. The client had informed us that we may take anything we find within the building that may interest us as payment. This was going to be lucrative, to say the least. Rounding the corner, I dropped into a couch. I had found the place. There were guards outside, looking nervous and alert. Their masks and uniforms confirmed that they were White Fang and more dangerous than I had anticipated. Using my weapons, Divine Judgment, I scaled a stack of cargo containers to gain a vantage point on the enemy, allowing me to see their guards' positions before making a plan. 2 in front of the doors, 1 by that crane in the far corner, 2 more by the gate. 5 on 1. I like those odds. I grinned as I dropped down to the ground below, over the fence, and began to sneak my way to the side of the warehouse. I grabbed a can from the ground near my feet and tossed it at the containers across from me. One of the guards walked over to investigate. As he came close, I turned the corner and grabbed him, covering his mouth and putting him in a chokehold. I squeezed until he stopped struggling, having lost consciousness. Apparently, we made quite the commotion, his friend coming over to check on him. "Rick, you okay, bud?" he called to the night air quietly. Receiving no response, he came closer, now standing just past the wall I had been hiding behind. He turned to the right just in time to see my foot collide with his face, knocking him out with a single kick. He collapsed to the ground at my feet, blood oozing from his newly busted lip. I piled the 2 guards against the building and threw their weapons in a nearby dumpster. I crept over to the door and pushed it open slowly. My eyes scanned the room for threats. Finding none, I entered, keeping myself low. I ventured farther into the room, amongst several crates with the Schnee logo on them. Spotting a table, lit by a single overhead light, I ventured closer to take a look at what was so important. My eyes nearly bulged out of my head. On the table was a map of Vale, with specific strategic location listed on it. Also on the table was a manifest of the dust they had accumulated. It was the early plans for war. I took the map, intending to hand it over to the authorities after this. An electronic beep rang out as the map left the table, a pressure sensor registering the map being taken without prior notice to the security system, which was now screaming at me through a loudspeaker on the wall. "Intruder! Intruder in the facility!" A door opened across from me, several armed White Fang thugs pouring out of an adjacent room, and more coming in through the door that I had entered through. "Freeze!" shouted an especially tough-looking man wielding a massive sword. The thugs trained their weapons on me. They had me surrounded. I didn't move any more than looking around, 2 with pistols, 4 with short swords, and their leader with a great sword. "Put down the map," came a command. I obeyed, placing the map back on the table, this being the last command of his I followed. Keeping my eyes on the 2 with the firearms, I deftly flicked my wrist, a single blade extending from my right hand. I charged one of the gunmen, my semblance telling me where their shots were aimed just in time for me to block or dodge. Closing the distance rapidly, I slashed, knocking the weapon from the first opponent's hand. Bringing my other hand around, I slammed it into his stomach, making him bend forward. My knee came up to meet his face, knocking him out cold. Sensing another attack was incoming, I turned and dodged the sword strike aimed at my head, bending forward under the swing and stepping to the side. I grabbed his arm and twisted, forcing him to release the weapon. I threw him over my shoulder and into the second gunman, knocking them both out. Jumping backwards, I made myself some room, forcing the enemies to turn and come to me. One of the thugs charged at me, sword poised to strike. I blocked with the weaponized bracer on my left arm, punched with my right hand, then delivered a swift roundhouse to the side of his head with my right foot. Even as their comrade fell to the ground, out cold, the last two thugs rushed me together. Do they never learn? I asked myself as I blocked, countered, and knocked out the last two thugs. Just you and me, I said teasingly to their now enraged commander. He was fast with that massive blade, though, easily closing the distance between us. I barely had time to anticipate and block his attack, the force of the blow throwing me back against a nearby crate. I deployed both of my blades, lethal edges gleaming in the fluorescent lighting of the building. Clearly, my opponent had aura training. There's no way any normal human or faunus could move that fast with a blade of that size. My mind cleared, focusing on the task at hand. I blocked his next 3 blows with my own blades. He swung low, and I jumped high over his blade, spinning in the air to deliver a powerful kick to his head. He stumbled as it connected. I took the opportunity to slash at his torso and legs, forcing him backwards. A kick to his gut forced his weapon from his hands. Jumping back, I retracted the blades and ensnared them with my whips, the weighted tips wrapping around his torso. With a mighty heave, I lifted him from the ground and slammed him back down again, before twisting and throwing him against a steel shipping crate. He fell to the ground without another sound. Before calling the cops, I rummaged through a stash of money and a handful of dust crystals from the building, filling my pockets with the well-earned loot. The authorities arrived to find me tying up the criminals. The police were followed by 3 individuals. 2 were familiar, them being Professor Ozpin and Miss Goodwitch, who worked as headmaster and a teacher at Beacon Academy, respectfully. The third was a dark elf of an unknowable age, his eyes containing pain and wisdom beyond measure. The mysterious elf approached me. If I may introduce myself, I am Vaves Enderville, the Wolvenreign. I am currently Dr. Oobleck's assistant at Beacon. It's nice to meet you, young man. After processing the truth of what he said, I bowed in respect to the elf, him being older than all of us combined. We were alerted to an incident involving a skilled fighter and a group of White Fang agents, Ozpin informed me after I questioned why they were here. Nodding slowly, I handed him the map from the warehouse. I found these plans and several cases of dust within the base. It would seem that they were planning something big, I said. Ozpin took the map and looked at it. He frowned, worry creasing his face as he looked at me. What is your name, young man? He asked. My name is Sapphire Rose, sir. They all looked at me quizzically. Would you be related to a certain Ruby Rose? Goodwitch asked. I nodded. She's my twin sister. Why do you ask? They informed me that Ruby had assisted in stopping a robbery elsewhere in the city and was offered a position at the Beacon as a result. Assuming that you were trained under the supervision of one Crow Branwen, I'd be happy to offer you a position as well. You seem more than capable, said Ozpin. My eyes lit up like neon signs. Yes, sir! Thank you, sir! Came my excited reply, revealing my relation to Ruby in 4 words. After meeting the professors from Beacon, I sent word to the guild, informing them of a successful job. Knowing that the funds would be transferred to my account, I messaged Dad. He told me they were heading for the Bullhead home. Hurrying there, the 4 of us headed home, Ruby and I excitedly sharing that we'd been offered early positions at Beacon. Yang and our dad were both grinning ear to ear when they heard the news, both expressing how proud they were. Ruby commented that it was great to have both of her siblings going to Beacon with her in the coming year, a sentiment that Yang and I shared completely. We packed our bags, and at the end of the month we were shipped off to Beacon. Dad cried a little as we boarded the transport ship. I'm proud of all of you. Stay safe, and listen to the teachers, he called after us, pride in his voice. We waved at him through a window as we took off, heading towards our future.